I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be making a bracelet. Just simple bead stringing today. Just something you can chillax and grab a cup of tea, and if you want to grab some beads from your stash and bead along with me, that's great. I'll have links in the description box that'll apply to where all the products used today in this tutorial, where you can find some of these. Now, some of these beads you might be able to get like at Michael's. I'll go over these real quick with you, what I'm using today. I haven't quite decided which bead cap I'm going to use, but I've got like 3 different bead caps. These are for like a 4 to 6 millimeter bead. I got these on Amazon. You can get them in an assorted pack, and usually when you get them assorted, you have to sort them out, you know, to match which ones go with what. But you can get some pretty good deals with bead caps online. You're going to need, I'm using 0.08 nylon coated beading wire. This is a 7-strand Beadalon. And you're going to need a number 2 crimp bead, which I've got here. And I prefer to use Beadalon crimp beads. They're good quality. I've got a little dangle here, leaf charm. Haven't figured out where I'm going to put that yet. But these are all beads from my stash. These are some 4 millimeter Krakovski bicone crystals. They're kind of a peachy pink color. Really pretty. I've got some shell coin beads. These are like a 10 millimeter. They're flat. The hole runs down the center. And then I've got, these are pink white jade. I can't remember where I got these, so I'll see. You might be able to get them at any beading store. It's like a gemstone. These are a 6 millimeter in size. I've got some 11/0 seed beads that I'm going to use kind of like a spacer. I've got a couple of 6 millimeter jump rings, 2 wire guardians, a 4 millimeter jump ring, a lobster clasp, and you can put an extender chain on this if you like. Amazon sells these extender chains very reasonably priced, and if you want to do that, that's an option that you can do as well. Now for tools, you're going to need some wire cutters, a couple of pair of flat nose pliers, and I'm using a wire rod today. This is to help me figure out what design I'm going to do, and I got these on Amazon, and you want to make sure if you're going to buy these on Amazon, this is a 1 millimeter diameter, and it needs to be small enough that your bead will go through. So this will help me lay out the design, and I'll show you how I do that once we get this area organized. And then as I'm doing this, I'll show you what my design is going to look like, and then we'll string it on, and I'll show you how to do the end clasp and how to do the beading crimp toots and so forth. All right, so let me clear my area and we'll get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire rod here, and I'm going to put an earring stopper at the end so that I can string on my beads. So that way I'll know kind of what size of bracelet I'm going to end up with. So I kind of decided to try and make a design by putting a crystal in between the 6 millimeter rounds like that, and then a shell spacer, and repeating that pattern. So I'm going to encase the 6 millimeter beads with a bead cap on each side and put a 11/0 seed bead in between to kind of make this bicone crystal pop. And then here I'm probably going to be using 11/0s to accentuate the flat coin bead. So let's start by putting on, I'm going to put on 11/0 on first, like that, and then I'm going to put a coin bead on. Figure out where the hole is. There it is. And that's not going through because it's blocked. So let's try a different coin bead. Okay, I'm not having any luck with that, but it's probably going to go on my stringing wire. Could be that the rod is a little too, so I'll tell you what. We're going to not do it on the rod. I'm just going to wing it today. And we're going to put it directly on the coated beading wire. So what I'm going to do is get a bead stopper or bead clamp so that my beads don't fall off. Alright, so here is what a bead clamp looks like. I've got some small ones because these beads aren't really that heavy duty, but they've got different size of bead clamps, and you can get this at any beading store, and I'm going to use this little guy here. So that will keep my beads from falling off, and I'm going to leave about 3 inches at the end. So you just put your bead clasp on the end like that, and that'll keep your beads from falling off. And I've got about 10 inches of beading wire or beading stringing wire because I'm going to make about a 7-inch bracelet, and you want to have at least 3 inches at each end or 1.5 inches to be able to do your crimp tubes. So once you get that on, I'm going to start by picking up a 11/0. Now let's see if this works. I'm going to put my coin bead on, and notice, see how that passes through really easy. So I'll put the coin bead on. I'm going to put another 11/0, and that's going to make my coin bead have a nice little accent there. So now I'm going to pick up a bead cap, and I think I'm going to go with probably these. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to start by picking up the bead cap, going from this direction because I want that to cup my round. So now I'm going to put a round bead on like that, and I'm only going to encase one side. Now in the middle here I'm going to put an 11/0, and now I'm going to pick up my bicone crystal, pick up another 11/0. That's what I have so far. It's looking kind of cute. And then I'm going to pick up another round. And now to close that pattern, I'm going to put a bead cap on the left bead here. So now I'm going to pick it up with the cup facing towards me. And there is my pattern. It's really pretty. It kind of reminds me of cotton candy. So that's what I'm calling this bracelet, is the cotton candy bracelet. Very pretty with gold tones. I tried, I was going to do it with silver, but I didn't really think silver went well with the pink. And I think the gold is a better contrast for this shade of color. So, but you can do it whatever way you want. And so that's going to be the pattern. So I'm going to continue stringing on by picking up my 11/0, my shell bead, my 11/0. Now I'm going to pick up a bead cap, a round bead, an 11/0, bicone crystal, an 11/0, a round, and another bead cap. So I'm going to continue stringing that on. I'll do that off camera, and then I'll show you the finished result. I'm going to measure this and see how long this is, so then I can decide which way I want to end this bracelet, if I want to end with a coin bead or if I want to end with a round. So let me do a quick measurement and we'll see what's next. All right, I've checked the length on this, and it looks like this is going to be at about a 6-inch bracelet, and I think I'm going to stop here but I want the end to have a little leaf at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on another 11/0 on this end, and then I'm going to put my 4mm jump ring on because I'm going to attach that so that my leaf dangles. So I'm going to leave that like that, and then I'm going to run my jump ring through here and the leaf so that way it hangs a little bit. So that's where I'm going to end my bracelet. Alright, so now that I have my 2 11/0s and my jump ring, I'm going to go ahead and add just another 2 11/0s here at the end to give a little bit of length here. And from here I'm going to put on one of my crimp tubes like this before I put on my wire guardian. So put on your crimp tube. Now we're going to pick up our wire guardian, and I've got my lobster clasp on there, so I'm going to go through the wire guardian. Pass through the lobster clasp. Just kind of hold that with your fingers. Now we're going to come down the other side of the wire guardian. All right, just get that to pass through there. There we go. And you want that to fall in the channel when you're pulling your beading wire. Let's get that kink out. Okay, so I'm going to pull that together. Now you want to pass the beading wire back through the crimp tube. And let's see if we can get that to move out of the way. There we go. So we're going to pull that through, and it's just going to pass through the crimp tube. Pull that like so. So we can get that kink out. And you want it to sit flush on the crimp tube like that, with the crimp tube kind of centered, and now we can kind of squish this in like so. So that's how that should look like. I failed to mention you're going to need some crimping pliers. Oops. All right, so some crimping pliers, you can use something like this, or if you have this type of crimping pliers, that's fine. You're going to want to place your crimping tool over the crimp tube so that it sits in the channel, and you want it to do a center crimp right over the fold. You want the wire to be parallel or next to each other. So we're going to place this over the crimp to where you're in the groove like so. And we're going to crimp right here, and that's going to put a divot like that between the wires. So now we're going to close that by folding it over, and you'll go into the first or second divot in your pliers and squeeze to bring it together. So that's what that should look like. And that makes it nice and secure. It's not going to go anywhere. So from here we're going to cut off that extra wire and just use your flush cutters to cut this like so. So there's one end of your bracelet done. So what I'm going to do here is I wanted to attach this leaf just to have it as an accent here. So I've got a 6mm jump ring right here. I'm going to go ahead and put that on. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers to open up this jump ring, and use my other pliers to twist it towards me. Now I'm going to pass this through my leaf like that, and then I'm going to pass this through my 4mm jump ring on the bracelet. Like that. And now I'm going to close this. See if we can do this so this isn't in the way. There we go. So now I'm just going to bring this together like that. So I have this little leaf accent at the base of the bracelet. I thought that would be kind of cute. All right, so now we're going to close it up by putting our tube, crimp tube, on this other end, and we're going to do the same thing. Now for this side, I'm going to attach this jump ring here. Let's see what the length ends up being with that added beads, because it was 6 inch. It's probably a little bit longer now. So it's going to be about a 6.5 to 7 inch, which is perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to just put my wire guardian on here. And this leaves you flexibility. If you wanted to add an extender chain to this, you can. So I'm just going to put the wire guardian on, and then I'm going to put my jump ring on last. So I just pass that through. I'm going to go back through the wire guardian like that. And I can go ahead and just put my jump ring on. So you can use a soldered or a closed jump ring if you want. Soldered jump ring or an open jump ring. And I'm just going to put it on like that. Now I'm going to pass this through, back through the crimp tube. And I'm going to pull through my wire like that. And just make sure there's no slack in your thread. And you want your bracelet to have some fluidity, so you don't want it too tight. Give it a little slack there. That's better. And there it is. So all we have to do is close this with our crimping tool. Like so, and I'm going to fold that in half. And so that should be nice and secure, and I can cut off this extra wire right here. And let me get this all arranged and we can admire our bracelet. All right, here's our completed cotton candy bracelet. Isn't that cute? Just using beads from your stash, and you got spacers. If you have bicones, flat coin beads, or any other kind of bead, you can come up with any kind of elegant design. Super simple to do. Just takes a little bit of bead stringing wire. Now, if you don't have bead stringing wire, you could do wired wrap loops. So if you'd like a tutorial on how to do that, leave me a comment and I'd be happy to do a tutorial on how to do that version using wire wrapped loops. All right, this concludes today's tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming back to watch my videos. I'll have links in the description box where you can find some of these products. I also have a website, and you'll see the link to that as well. So if you click more below this video, you'll see all the details. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified when I upload new videos. And leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Also, I want to thank all of you that have subscribed and you keep coming back to watch. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing my link and commenting as well. Have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.